All right, guys, we're live for episode 7 here. Once again, if you have not subscribed or liked our Facebook or YouTube page, be sure to do that. We really appreciate your support, and to all of our listeners and followers right now. We're going to talk about some NFL, a little bit of college football, and some World Series baseball as well. So let's jump right into the NFL first.
Yeah, I think the two big games were pretty much letdowns: Packers, Bucks, Steelers, Browns, in terms of the types of game they were. The Steelers, I mean, as bad of a game as it was, they looked really good. That defense from last year was finally on display. I've been waiting for it all year. I think everybody kind of was. It hasn't been bad this year. It just has not been good. It's been very average, and they absolutely dominated on defense. I know Baker was hurt, and I think that played a part in it. I don't think he was at full strength, and I definitely think that affected his performance and their performance. So that needs to be mentioned. But I think either way, that game was going the way it went. Steelers defense showed up in a big way. The offense looked good. Just all around great performance. I think everybody's kind of been waiting to see that from the Steelers. They haven't played anybody. They haven't looked good in the teams they have beat. But all of a sudden, after this performance, people are talking like, okay, I think they solidified themselves as a top 3 NFL team as it stands. So, impressive performance from them. I thought they made a real statement.
The Devin Bush injury definitely puts a damper on the win. We'll have to see what they have from inside linebacker depth, which doesn't seem like it's much, but I know they got a couple younger guys. So we'll see what they do if they try to sign a free agent or something like that. But yeah, they have a tough schedule coming up the next 3 games. They got to play the Titans this week, then the Ravens and the Cowboys, which aren't a tough team, so we won't even waste any time talking about them. But yeah, I mean, the Bucks Green Bay game was a tale of two different games. It almost seemed like that game started off, Green Bay went up 10-0. You know, you're watching it, it's like, okay, this is about how I kind of thought it might go. And then that interception, the pick 6 that Rodgers threw, it seemed like there's a switch that flipped, and after that, they couldn't do anything to be successful, and it just got out of hand fast, and before you knew it, it was like 38-10.
Yeah, it kind of reminds you of watching the Packers last year in both their games versus the Niners, and it starts to make you wonder, like, I'm starting to think, man, is this just the Packers from last year where they're 13-3 and they look great, but then when they had to play any really good teams or the big games, they looked not just losing the game, but they looked terrible. I saw a thing on Pro Football Talk. They lost 4 games under Matt LaFleur now. Actually, 5 games under Matt LaFleur under his era, and 4 of them, including the playoffs game, that is 3 in the regular season, 1 in the playoffs last year, and then 1 this year. 4 of the 5 are blowouts. So they've got kind of this bad trend where if they don't look like they're competing, they just pack it in. It looks like so. I'm still not going to throw them in from last year. I still think they look a lot better than last year, but it was definitely concerning to lose that way.
Yeah, one of the games. Go ahead, Joe. All right, one of the games that I was, ended up being like really good was Titans and Texans, man, and like Derrick Henry essentially took that game over. But the Titans are just an interesting team, in my opinion. They don't seem like a team on paper that's going to be able to put up 42 points like they did on Sunday. But no matter what the situation is or who their opponent is, I think one of the things that Mike Vrabel was doing a very good job of doing is game planning for his opponent. And I feel like I can see just like a little bit of that like Belichick rub-off type effect that, they go into the Bills and they play against them and they're able to kind of do what they did. And then they get into like a shootout with the Texans. And he pulls like a rabbit out of the hat. I don't know if you all saw where he like purposely took that penalty to stop the clock in the fourth quarter, saved him some time, and ended up scoring a touchdown with 4 seconds left to be able to tie up the game and end up winning in overtime. But just impressed with the Titans. They're finding ways to win. And Ryan Tannehill, after he got out of the shadow of Adam Gase, is a legit quarterback and looking really good. So I'm impressed by them and their 5-0 start.
Yeah, one of the other games that I was interested in and just kind of watching was the game between the Rams and the Niners. And it was really interesting to me because I feel like we've all talked about how the Rams have looked like a pretty good team. Like, wow, we have kind of put them in that second tier of like a pretty quality team that can make the playoffs. And then they kind of just came out like really flat. Like it just looked like they almost didn't show up. And I didn't expect that, especially against the Niners who, we all know the injuries they've had. They just haven't looked good. Jimmy G came back last week and didn't look good, ended up getting benched. So I didn't expect the Niners to roll them the way they did, and they just, the Rams just looked like they didn't come to play. And I was actually looking into it, and I was like, so thinking to myself, are the Rams really that quality of a team? Like, they have a 4-1 record, or 4-2 now record, but do you know who those 4 wins are against? They're against the entire NFC East. They have only beat the NFC East. So I don't know how good they are, because they haven't beat anybody, because the whole NFC East is incredibly terrible. So we don't really know what they are. And the 2 times they played someone who was decent was Buffalo and the Niners, and they lost both those games. What are they?
That's a great point you make, Aggie. I didn't realize that all their wins were NFC East teams. So if that's the case, I mean, there's not much credit to be given there, other than just taking care of what you should do. I guess you give some credit for that. But I also give a little bit of credit to the Niners and the fact that you got Shanahan and what he's built there in the last year and a half. I know that with injuries, and some of those are long-term, I really don't think they're going to be able to be anywhere near what they were last year. I think I could see them scrapping out a playoff berth, maybe at best. But I think they're still a good enough team, even with all the injuries, based on what Shanahan and the kind of program that he's built, to rise up and beat a good team like the Rams, if the Rams are a good team. And like you said, maybe they're not. Maybe they're just feasting on bad opponents. We'll find out, over the rest, the course of the season. But I'll give a little bit of the credit to the Niners there, not just take it as the Rams, laying an egg.
Yeah, I definitely am impressed by the fight, the heart there. Obviously, going into it, this is a team that's got a lot of talent that you're facing. You are depleted with injuries, but you're not going to let that stand in your way and say, well, we're just going to lose this game. You're going to go win the game.
They got a divisional they have a divisional win now, over them. And you got to remember, like you said, Aggie, they're going to get 4 games. Everybody in that division is going to get 4 games against the NFC East, because that's who they play this season. So, that's 4 wins right there that they're going to most likely get if they play sound football. With how bad the NFC East is. But, it's interesting. I think you made a comment a couple weeks ago, once they had lost all those starters, that you just thought they had no shot at the playoffs. And I remember saying, like, I still think, just because of the way they're coached and how deep they are, that they can maybe go 9-7, maybe surprise some people, go 10-6, depending. But I think 9-7 might even be enough to get them in the playoffs in the NFC.
I think the biggest challenge for them is the division they're in.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough all the division games they're going to have to battle through, and all the teams,
even the Cardinals
to get through that.
A decent team, what
Cardinals
I mean?
beat them already once this year. Yep.
Right.
I think like you said this a little bit earlier, Trav, but it's kind of like the Packers. The Rams do this thing in certain games where they just don't show up. And it's almost like if they can't get that kind of that misdirection game established early in the game, where they got the defenses on, like, kind of over pursuing, then they really struggle, because their offense is predominantly predicated on running plays that all look the same every single time. And I feel like teams that are really familiar with them and know what they're doing, or teams that have really disciplined defenses, are able to kind of shut that down and not over pursue in that way.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And another team that they struggle with over the past couple years, and even I think the one year they were 13-3 and went to the Super Bowl, is the Bears, who they play on Monday night this week. So I'll be interested to see how they do against the Bears this week, kind of given what you just said, Dan, and given that the Bears are looking like a pretty good team. That's actually a Monday night game, if I'm not mistaken, Bears-Rams. So that should be good. But another game I was looking at from this weekend, kind of the third of the big time matchups, which was looking like it was going to be an undefeated versus undefeated like the week before, but then they both took the loss the week before. It was the Bills-Chiefs, which was the early Monday night game because of the rescheduling. So that was a little bit better game, a little bit more competitive. But my main thing is, like, not just looking at last night, but just looking now at the Bills as a whole. They've lost 2 games straight. It's a good team, so I'm not like just going to rip them or anything. But what's concerning to me is, now that you look over they're 4-2, but if you look over their whole 6 games, their defense looks terrible. So if they're a team that's going to have to rely on Josh Allen and the offense playing really well, I kind of looked at it as, like, at the beginning of the year, like, okay, their defense is going to be solid, and then you expect their offense to take the next step. Obviously, it looks like their offense has taken the next step, but their defense has gone like 2 steps back. So if that's the case, I don't even know what I think of the Bills, if they're much more than a 500 team, if they can't be better on defense.
So let me ask you this. Going into that, obviously we saw the Patriots lost to the Broncos after getting Cam back. Miami is sitting at 3-3 now. They're in second place in that division. They're a game back of the Bills. Is there any feasible way in this scenario of this season that the Dolphins can win that division? They're starting. So let me just preface it by saying Tua will be starting. I think they have a bye week, and then they play the Rams coming out of their bye week, I believe.
Yeah, I think there is a feasible way. I think at the beginning of the year, I don't know if I said on the podcast, I gave them a puncher's chance just because like maybe like a 10% chance, like not out of the realm of possibility that they could win the division, because obviously we didn't know what the Pats would be. And I still think the Pats are going to have something to say about it. But I didn't trust the Bills. I didn't trust Josh Allen in the offense. The weird thing is the problem right now is you can't trust their defense. So the fact that I still don't trust their offense to sustain it for the whole year and their defense looks like this, I may even trust them even less than I did at the beginning of the year. Now, I'm still not going to just hit the panic button on the Bills. Like, let's see what they do. They're still 4-2 and they're still okay. But yeah, I mean, I think it's feasible that I would still say they're third most likely to win the division as opposed to New England or Buffalo. But I think it is feasible, and I kind of want to get that discussion anyway about Tua. I'm interested to know what you guys think about Tua and the timing of it. To me, the timing was really weird to go ahead and make the decision today. Like, oh, we're starting Tua, and I just heard all this talk about they think they can be competitive with Fitzpatrick. They just won 2 straight. They got to 3-3. I know Fitzpatrick did not have a very good game, and they won the game, but they didn't have a very good game. But still, I mean, if you're going to start him to start the year, and the whole point is, I guess, partially to let Tua have some time to get ready, but also like we think we can compete, and then now you're in position where you're competing with him. Why now? It feels to me like there's maybe a little tug of war between ownership and coaching staff, and maybe they just forced this on him, or maybe they just felt like we wanted time for Tua to get ready. Now we feel like he's ready health-wise and just maturity-wise, and now we're doing it. I don't know, but it seemed weird to me, the timing of it.
I think one of the things I read was that it had to do with the bye week. Sorry, Ag. It had to do with the bye week. So originally the bye week was going to be week 11, and because of schedule changes, it got moved till this week. Mm-hmm. So I think that was always maybe their plan, and this is what I read, that it was always their plan to bring Tua in after the bye week. So he'd have 2 weeks to get prepared for his first start. So I don't know if there's any validity to that, but that's the most reasonable thing that I've heard so far. Otherwise, I'm right there with you, Trav. Fitzpatrick gives you the best shot, maybe, but they keep saying like they see Tua making these wow plays, and so they just want to put him out there. So we'll see. There's precedent though, because the Giants did the same thing with Kurt Warner with Eli Manning. They benched him after they were 5-4, and then they put Eli in. It ended up being terrible, like 1-6 or 1-5 the rest of the year. But
I think that I mean, there was a guy, obviously he was joking, but he tweeted and said, he said the Dolphins are doing it right. Everybody knows that every year for 2 to 4 games, Ryan Fitzpatrick has Fitzmagic and gets you excited and can win you games. And then that fades and he ends up throwing 5 interceptions 3 games in a row. So they're just doing it before he hits his lull of it. But no, I think with what you said, Dan, I think it has to do with the bye week. And I also think that maybe there's a little bit of them wanting to see what they have out of him, knowing that they're 3-3 now. If they can string some wins together, then they'd be like, okay, like this season for them, I don't think they were going into this season thinking we're going to compete for the division. Like we can win this division, be a contender. But now, they're 3-3. They're just in the thick of it, 6 weeks in. And so maybe they're just like, you know what, let's just throw him out there. Let's, it can't hurt him. Let's see if he can compete, at a high level when we actually have a chance to win, instead of, putting him in there after week 11 and we're already like 4-10 and 4-6 or something like that. And there's no chance to come back and make the playoffs. At least give him something to work for.
Well, I think most of the time that teams do that is, to give them time that, when they wait till they are having like in the midst of a bad season, or like to the point where they're not really in the playoff race anymore, is because it gives them less pressure, but it still gives them time to play in a real NFL game with that speed, because, everything's different in the NFL as far as that's what I always hear from quarterbacks, is like the speed of the game is so much different from college when you actually get that first start in the NFL. And what I've also heard though from Miami, from different places, is that Tua has looked very good and he's continued to improve and look really good in practices, to the point where, maybe they're just thinking, hey, he looks like he's ready, let's give him a shot, regardless of the fact that we're in this sort of playoff race, so to speak, even though it's early in the season, but they're in the mix. So I definitely don't think, regardless of it's like Travis said, a tug of war between ownership and coaches, I don't think he'd be going out there if, most everyone in the upper levels of that organization and the coaches thought he was, if they didn't think he was actually ready for it, I don't think they'd put him out there.
Yeah. One last thought for the Tua thing before I want to get into one other thing with the NFL. I don't think it's necessarily a crazy move to put Tua in. I mean, it's not like Fitzpatrick's all that. And if they feel like they're winning right now in spite of Fitzpatrick, and they feel like what they see in practice in the growth and development of Tua is just like, they might really think like, okay, this is one for his development. He's ready and for the future. But this is also, we don't feel like we're going to lose anything. And we feel like we've got a good shot to actually gain something at the quarterback position. If they feel that way and it has nothing to do with ownership, and then this is just happens to be a moment mixed in with the bye week, like you said, Dan, and the timing is perfect, that's fine. I'm not even ripping. I'm not criticizing it. It just was confusing to me because you hear all this. Everything I was hearing come out was like, oh, they think they compete now and compete this year with Fitzpatrick, and that maybe Tua's not ready. And then all of a sudden, oh, we're going with him. So I was just confused a little bit by the timing of it, not necessarily criticizing it. But I wanted to bring up kind of where we're at with the NFL season. We're here. We're like a third of the way through. We're 6 weeks in. We have a sample size. I'm interested to know what you guys think 6 weeks in about maybe your Super Bowl favorites, how they're faring, some teams that have surprised you. One takeaway I had was kind of the flip-flop. I feel like the last 3 or 4 years, and I think it's just kind of a known thing, maybe even longer than that, the strength of the NFL, I feel like, has been the NFC for 4 or 5 years. You've had New England over there, and then KC kind of came on the last couple of years. But other than that, I feel like the strength was in the NFC, was a little bit deeper at the top. This year, I feel like that's flipped. I've got, honestly, I was looking at some power rankings on NFL Network, and I kind of just thinking about my own. I think the best 4 teams in the NFL are all in the AFC. I'd still put Kansas City there, just I give them that respect as number 1. Yeah. Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Tennessee before I even get to Seattle, who doesn't even impress me as the best NFC team.
It's a pretty bold statement.
I don't think it's crazy, though.
Who would you throw?
I would probably put Seattle above Tennessee, personally, even though, like, if they play, it's tough because, like, if they played, I feel like Tennessee has the edge because we know how bad Seattle's defense is, and I feel like
that's my point.
All over them. But I also know that they have Russell Wilson, and I don't think Tennessee would stop Russell Wilson. So that could be a shootout game. But it's tough. I mean, when you look at power rankings, I always struggle with how you define them anyways because of that fact. It's like, yeah, you say power rankings are if you put this team against this team, who wins, and then you kind of go from there. But at the same time, you also have to look at body of work and what they've done too. And, like, you know, I don't know. Like, for me, it's like you said with the Bills. Like, the Bills scraped a win. The Bills really should be 3-3. They should have lost to the Rams. And then, you know, they've obviously lost 2 straight. That game, the Rams kind of blew that game. They were up.
Yeah, but they were up by like 4 touchdowns on the Rams. I would never say a team that was up 28-3, like 2.5 quarters in, should have lost that game. I know at the end how it happened, but
yeah. So
they earned that win.
Okay, well, I'll give you that. But either way, like, I just feel like, you know, I would put the Bills probably 6 or 7. I would probably put Seattle at 3 after. Actually, see, to me, it's hard. I don't really know what to think of Baltimore yet. They shellacked Cleveland in week 1, but it's week 1. Doesn't matter. They got shellacked by Kansas City, and they've looked pretty, like, decent over the last couple of weeks. They almost, you know, had a close game against Philly. They had a game against Cincinnati where they won by 14 points. Like, they haven't looked special. I've been looking at Lamar's stats and haven't seen them been looking like anything crazy. But for me, it's like, I don't know. I want to see more Baltimore against solid teams because they haven't really played that many of them to know what I think of them. But for me, it's a toss-up between Pittsburgh and Baltimore for number 2. But yeah, I would probably put Seattle right after those 3, though, like you said, the AFC. So yeah, I would agree definitely for sure though that the AFC.
So it's not that far off. Then you're still saying
no. I'm just saying like the fact I was more so surprised about the fact that you don't think Seattle's all that like.
I feel
like they could compete with any of the top AFC teams. Yeah.
So do you think though, as far as the NFC goes, you think Seattle is the best looking team so far in the NFC? Hands down, or it's kind of like, there's a couple.
It's just kind of like, but it's kind of by default because they're undefeated. And then I was gonna say to me, it was the Packers before last week, and then I'm still not impressed by the Bucks. And then the Bucks
they've been up and down
so easily.
They've been up and down.
When are we gonna start giving credit to the Bears? At what point? What do they need to do for you to give credit to them?
Not in like the top 3 of the NFC.
They beat the Bucks
not yet.
Last week.
Yeah, but. Like I said, the Bucks are up and down.
Dude. When they beat them and then the Bucks go the next week and beat the Packers by 28 points.
Yeah, but you can't play that game where they beat them, so they're better than them.
You're looking at like a couple matchups instead of like really thinking like, do you really think the Bears have the horses on offense to do this?
No, I don't think they do an offense. But what I'm saying is I feel like their offense is something that can grow. Their defense is solid.
That's not ever going to grow good enough.
So much they don't have that good of personnel, and Nick Foles is not going to be this elevated quarterback who's going to carry the team.
It's not happening for the Bears on a real level.
I think that I agree. Trav, I agree with you at this point in the season that probably the 4 best teams are in the AFC. My hunch is that by the end of the season, we'll be singing a different tune. I think the Saints, when they get Michael Thomas back, are going to come into the picture. I think the Bucks are going to continue to get better. Just them getting the semblance of a running game, and I know it was a kind of a blowout, but just them getting a little bit of a running game. Ronald Jones now has a couple games in a row with over 100 yards rushing, and we kind of talked about this at the beginning of the year. Their defense is pretty darn good in Tampa Bay.
I've been impressed with it.
Yeah, so I think that they have the things that they need. If they can get people back, like Mike Evans actually healthy, Chris Godwin back healthy, I still think that they were one of my Super Bowl picks. So I still think that they're going to be up there in the top. But right now, I agree the top four is in the AFC, and the NFC's got some work to do.
My biggest disappointment is from my takeaways. My biggest disappointment being just I thought the Saints would look a little bit sharper out the gate.
But like Dan said, let's wait till they get Michael Thomas. They haven't had him.
It's going to be different. It's going to be different when they get him back. I'm hoping it is too. I mean, they're my Super Bowl pick. So.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm looking at the NFC and I'm like, because I haven't seen them with Michael Thomas, I don't even know, because I picked Saints Chiefs. I don't even know that I would change my pick right now because I still think the Saints and the NFC as a whole will pick it up, like you were saying, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good bit of NFL stuff. We have obviously more to come with that every week as these other seasons are winding down. We'll be talking a lot more NFL and kind of where we are at the halfway point as well. We're going to talk about a little bit of college football now. We haven't had too much college football talk just because we've been kind of waiting a little bit. I know the Big Ten is starting football this weekend. It has sparked some.
This show's about to go next level now.
It has sparked
James Franklin criticisms begin.
Three of us are Penn State avid fans.
Yep.
So we've had many a debate on James Franklin and his ability to coach and to be a leader of men at Penn State. But what have you guys been thinking just in general? I mean, it's been hard for me to get into college football because everybody's playing interconference games, and you got these weird rankings. You see like teams that have no business probably being in the rankings, like ranked number 8 and 9.
Like Penn State is 8 right now and hasn't played it down.
Penn State's not even in the rankings.
Based off, they're always. We've been top 10. This has been our argument to Dan about James Franklin. We've been in the top 10 for the last how many ever years, most of the time.
What I'm saying is the rankings only reflect the teams that.
No, right now,
played,
I'm looking at the AP.
No, I think they just put in. I don't know. I think the AP did just acknowledge the Big Ten now because Ohio State's at 5.
Penn State's at
8. Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think they put
weird.
him in.
It's been weird.
There's right now 7 teams in the top 25 that are 0-0.
It's going to be even more weird to watch. I was just thinking, like, usually I have all season to kind of look forward to and get hyped about, Penn State playing Ohio State.
Right.
They play next week. Like, not this week. They play next week, and it's already here. And it's kind of weird because that's in the way
the season's going to be over earlier.
That's
than
what I'm saying. The way the seasons are, literally, if you lose one game in your conference, you're done. You're not going to make the playoff. There is no you can hope for this and that. It's literally if you don't win your conference, you're probably not making the playoff.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Every game. Well, it kind of does. Like, thankfully, it's the positive. It gets rid of the Akrons and the Northwest South Dakota State. The games when you just play teams that aren't even you shouldn't even play anyway. If you're a D1 school, and I get it, you're trying to throw them a bone, help them make a little bit of money or whatever, but this does definitely increase a sense of urgency. But as far as like the college football season, I've been really struggling. I agree to be interested in it. I always like watching like SEC matchups, and most of the time it's because my interest is are these two teams going to beat up on each other so Penn State can move up in the rankings? That's kind of like my interest in it.
Yeah.
I have no I just haven't had a chance to really get into it. What I do know is that the biggest thing that I'm just paying attention to is who's Trevor Lawrence going to get drafted by in the NFL. Like, that's the biggest thing that I've kind of watched.
Going to go to the Jets.
Well,
I know.
Yeah, talking about the SEC, I'm usually really locked into the SEC, like more than anything, even with being a Penn State fan and keeping track of the Big Ten as a priority. The SEC is just where it's at quality-wise. And finally, this week, we had our first, big game with the Georgia-Alabama game. It was a pretty good game there for about 3 quarters. Georgia was right there. It's looking like it was going to be back and forth coming down to the wire. And then I know –
till like mid-third quarter.
Yeah, and then that penalty call, I know Juddy was talking pretty heavily about that. Penalty call really changed the game where they couldn't hold on to a field goal to keep it a 6-point game and turn it into a 10-point game and then ended up being a 17-point win. But nonetheless, a big SEC game, if that felt good. But I'm with y'all. I echo your sentiments fully. It's hard to get invested because this is just this is almost like baseball. It's like a shell of its season. And then the playoffs, I know they're going to try to do the college football playoff, but no one's going to really, I don't think, respect it. But whatever. We'll talk about it because it's what we have. It's like we always say. It's what we have. So –
really, but I mean, if you look at it, like you said, Aggie, they have teams in the rankings that are 0-0. In my opinion, the way that they're looking to format it and the way that the seasons are formatted with your divisions, I don't think the rankings are going to mean anything. I think it's going to be you win your conference and you're a Power 5, then you have a chance, and then they're going to decide between those last two schools, maybe between a Pac-12 school and I don't even know, school, and they're going to figure it out and decide who gets the last spot.
I think they're going to do it as they always do. They're going to look at everybody's body of work. The problem is the bodies of work are going to be so much harder to kind of discern because they'll have
some teams aren't going to have very much of a
10-game
body.
season, it looks like, or 9-game, and some teams might have a 7-game season.
We have 8.
So it's like if a team's 8-1, I mean, I think they're going to do it like they always do. Look at strength of schedule. They're going to do all that stuff and do the best they can. It's just going to be probably even harder this year, and I don't think anybody's going to respect the result as much as they usually do.
Yeah, I think if Penn State was playing, I'd be way more engaged with the rest of the football that's going on. It's the fact that they haven't played yet that has me just like whatever. Yeah. Like it really, for me, when it starts, like even in NFL, it's like if my team's playing, I'm more invested in it. So with Penn State starting to play this week, guess what's going to be going on Saturday? My TV will be on, and I'll be watching Penn State play, and then I'll be interested to see what else is happening. But with them all starting at different times, it's just been really hard for me to like.
A side note too is the Big Ten, I believe, has 12 schools, or is it 14? Do you guys know?
12, I think it's 14.
14. So obviously they're only playing 8 games. I was looking at some of the matchups, and there's some pretty big matchups that don't occur. Like I know they don't happen every year. There's on a rotating schedule between which conference games they play from each side of the division. But I think like Penn State doesn't play Minnesota this year, so that won't be a match that you can kind of look at and see how that goes. Penn State does not play Wisconsin. So it's like they've got their big ones against Michigan State, and Ohio State. But outside of that, it's like they play Maryland. I think they play Rutgers. They play Indiana. But it's just weird, like you said, Trav. They're gonna have a harder time looking at these schedules to see, who really has a better body of work. Because what if 5 teams in the Big Ten go 7-1 and they all beat each other? Like, how do you determine who's the best one out of that? So.
Well, yeah, if you look at like Minnesota, right? Minnesota traditionally might be one of those teams on that other side of the division, right? The only team that they play from the East, which is like a gauntlet, we play all those teams have a chance of beating up on each other. The only team they play from over there that really would worry you would be Penn State, because like Penn State's ranked 8th. They play Michigan State, who's not even.
You don't worry about Michigan, Dan?
They don't even play Michigan.
Minnesota?
No, I'm talking about Iowa.
Oh,
like Iowa's one of those teams that every so often they win they win 8 games or something like that, and you think they might, and then all of a sudden they have to play someone from the East, or they end up playing like 2 teams from the East, and then
they usually lose. Yeah.
You finally see what they're made of. Well, this year they don't have to play. Like their toughest game is going to be against Penn State, and then probably against Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And
there is obviously the divisional the Big Ten championship game, which
that's true.
Put a lot of weight in. So you want to get there, but it's just interesting. It's going to be a different college football season for us to watch and for us to enjoy. I'm very intrigued to see how it plays out, because I know that the timing of their schedules for these different conferences is very different. Since obviously the Big Ten and I think the Pac-12 are starting late as well. So they're going to kind of have compressed seasons with less games, and I think it ends a little bit later than the rest of them. But it'll be exciting to finally watch some college football this weekend and get something to do. But let's.
Who's Penn State play?
They play Indiana, I believe.
Okay, that's a good preseason game.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's a good first game, but it'll be good to watch some college football for sure. But let's go into some baseball here as we try to wrap up the show. The World Series obviously is underway right now. Game 1 is happening as we speak between the Rays and the Dodgers. Anybody have anything that they're really looking forward to in this matchup? I mean, I'm just gonna say I'm kind of pulling for the Rays. I've never been a huge fan of the Dodgers, but I think that the Dodgers obviously are the favorites. The Rays may have shocked a few people to get to this point, but again, it's the modified season, so anything is kind of possible. But
yeah, I just think the only thing I have to say is, like, if the Dodgers are going to win a World Series and all the chances they've had in the last, like, however long, it feels like this is probably like their time. Like if they, I don't know, if they don't win this one, like, are they going to do it? Or, they have such a big payroll, and I know that everyone's paying attention to that. Like, I think Mookie Betts makes as much as the entire Rays roster or whatever. And so that just naturally makes you want to root for the underdog in the Rays. But, like, I'm just wondering, like, the Dodgers have, revamped and turned over the roster and invested a lot of money. So, like, they're like the Yankees of the NL. You know what I mean? Is this the time when they finally get that World Series and break through? Because their last one was 1988.
Yeah. I'm along the same lines as you, Dan. I'm actually, for that reason, I'm pulling for the Dodgers. I'm never really been a big Dodger fan myself either, but I'm pulling for them just because they've been there like last 6 or 7 years. How many either LCS or World Series have they been in, and they haven't gotten it done? So I'm just like, all right, hurry up and get it done already. This is y'all's time,
Yeah.
shorter time frame to do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, a short sprint of a season. But then I think to myself, like, I'm a Dodger fan, like, oh, we finally won one, and no one's going to give us credit because
Exactly.
it's a huge asterisk by
It's
it.
going to
Yeah.
put such a damper on their victory.
Because we talked about how the fact that there's really of all the sports, the least credibility is the third of a season that the baseball season played. So it's almost like, do they want to win this one though, or do they want to wait and win next year's when it's legitimate? So, but if I'm Dodgers, like I'm just thinking, like I'm hoping they win one, so at least they get one. It won't affect them, winning one the next year, so they can go and win another one, hopefully for their sake. I mean, I don't root for the Dodgers, so I don't care. But at least they would get one, and they could technically say, hey, we got a ring, we're in the record books, even if there is a huge asterisk by it. So I just thought of it from that standpoint. I don't know who's gonna win it, but I will pull for the Dodgers for that. And I'm also looking at Kershaw.
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
he gets some World Series / playoff redemption. He always finds a way to just, like, he pitches okay. He pitches good for, like, most of his starts in the playoffs, and then he'll get to, like, the 6th inning, and he just gets blown up. Yeah. And it's like, I'm just thinking to myself, can he just put 2 quality starts together? They win a World Series. So for his reputation-wise, because I like Kershaw, for his playoff reputation, you know what I mean, he'll have some better luck there, and maybe people will view him a little differently.
Yeah, for him, I'd be happy if the Dodgers won. Only for him, just I was listening to it on the radio today. They were talking about how he won like during a stretch where he won like 3 out of 4 Cy Youngs, and he should have won it the 4th year. He had like the lowest ERA. I think it might have been the year that I think Jake Arrieta won it or something. But yeah, I mean, for him, I'd be happy to see him win it. It's one of those guys that you kind of root for. He's a great pitcher, probably one of the best pitchers that I've gotten to see in our time. I mean, I don't know, Aggie, what do you think?
I mean, I was honestly, I mean, I don't think anybody was surprised to see the Dodgers get there. They were kind of the favorites from the start. As far as the Rays, I mean, they were playing well in the beginning of the playoffs. And then, I thought, as I was watching the ALCS, I was certain that, watching the Astros come back each night, another win. I was like, crap.
Hold on, I need to go bang on a
freaking
trash can.
Stros are going to, yeah, exactly. I was like, freaking Stros are going to come back and win this thing. And,
I secretly was pulling for him. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was just like, come on, do it. Like, just for like the.
Well, yeah, that's because you don't think they cheated, man. We could get into that discussion another day.
That'd be down a rabbit hole.
But Dan's a fan of the Astros stunts.
I think they cheated. I don't know why you don't think I think they cheated, but I just think for like the drama of it. The drama of the entire thing.
Everybody in the whole country.
Dan, I don't think. The reason I don't think you think they cheated is because we had this conversation and you were like, "Oh, they didn't do anything wrong. It's not in the rules. They didn't do anything wrong." That's why.
I did say that, but I mean, in regards to did they definitely challenge the integrity of the game? Yes.
But we'll talk about this more in depth later.
Yeah, but by the rule book.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
anyway.
There's also the baseball purists. Some of them are like, well, you still got to hit the ball. So,
yeah, but it's a lot easier when you know what's coming and you're a professional hitter. So, I mean, but yeah, getting back to the World Series, I think the Rays can be competitive. They might win a game or two, but I think, I expect the Dodgers to win this.
Yeah, I think they're currently up right now, right?
They are. It's 3-1. They're about to go to the 6th inning.
Just a quick shout out to the Orioles of the NL, the Braves. Good series. I thought they had it.
I was bummed, man. I was really bummed.
I had a feeling,
man. I had a feeling too. Like, I don't know if did you guys see the Mookie Betts catch that he made on Freddie Freeman at the wall?
It was really.
I was curious. Do you guys think was it going out? I don't think it was going out.
No, it looked like
I saw of it didn't look like it.
It looked like he was going to hit the top of the wall.
Right.
Like they kept saying, like the announcers kept saying, like, oh, it robs a home run, it steals. I'm like, that wasn't going out. Like, it was a great catch. Like, don't get me wrong. It was the way he tracked it with those high flying balls. It's not easy, but yeah.
Maybe Troy and Buck were looking at the planes flying over, and no, I'm just kidding.
It actually, I don't think it was Troy and Buck.
No, I was just making a reference to them. No, I was making a reference to Troy and Buck getting all political in the middle of their comment. Like they were commentating, they didn't realize they were on air. And they were making a comment about the planes flying over, and they were like, "Oh, in this administration, that wouldn't happen." And
Let me stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. This is Strictly Sports podcast.
Exactly.
We don't talk about
We need
that.
to let them know that. We need to send them something. Be like, here's a Strictly Sports mug.
There was a funny moment. I don't know if you guys caught it, or Trav, you probably caught it when they were at the Browns Steelers game, And Romo was like, he's like, what are we leading in with when we get back? Did you hear him on the hot mic?
I did
No.
hear that. I did hear that.
He's like, what are we leading
I didn't
in
hear
with?
that.
It was
I
hilarious. They had a
did.
commercial
Then it
break.
kind of cut real quick,
But-
and then it
Cut
came
real
back
quick.
a minute later.
What I did think was funny when Ben did the little, hey, Tony, the review
That
they
was
had, hey,
awesome.
Tony finally got one right, talking to Tony on the camera, basically. That was hilarious.
Just kidding, Antonio.
Yeah. it's-
That was hilarious.
That was hilarious.
Do you
All
think
right,
Jim
well,
Nance like slapped his hand when he like made that mistake? Like, don't you ever do that with me again? I'm Jim Nance, dang it.
no, they are top notch. I'm bummed we don't have them this week, but
2 weeks after that, we'll have him back to back. That's
yeah,
what
we
Jim
get 'em-
said.
Get him
so,
for the Ravens and for the Cowboys.
Do we want to do Thursday picks this week?
No.
I think we're gonna pass on it. I don't even know who plays.
Giants.
They actually have
Eagles.
Oh, no.
Oh, we got to do that.
NFC
Come on.
NFC
Let's
least.
do it for Dan. Dan
We're
really
not
wants
picking
to.
NFC
Come
East
on.
games, and we don't
You
have
got to
time
do
anyway.
it because you know what? It's probably actually going to be competitive, and that's sorry and sad.
Listen,
but-
we are already at 35 minutes. Our show is well over what we should be at. So I'm gonna end your time.
Eagles
I'll give
by a
you
touchdown.
Eagles by touchdown. I got Giants by 3.
I'll take the Giants. I don't know what the score, but they'll win.
Trav.
Eagles get it done, even though I think the Giants are a better team right now.
All right. Well, that's it. That's it for the show right there. We'll end on that NFC least note right there. Thanks for tuning in again. If you've made it this far, be sure to subscribe and follow us.
First place, baby. First place.
Yeah,
You're not.
actually.
Actually,
you're
we are
1-4-1,
2-4.
So I'm gonna stop you right there, Dan. But yeah, check us out on strictlysportspodcast.com. Check us out on
We didn't get to play the Giants
Pod
yet.
on Instagram and find us on Facebook, Strictly Sports Podcast. Appreciate it.